All right, Michaela, let's take a look at your paper. MLA format first. This is right, but it's not the same font size as everything else, so change that. This all looks good, all in a night's rest. I think you can actually have a stronger message statement about your paper, because I feel like you use some pretty powerful words in here, right? And that doesn't seem as powerful or as forthright, so I think you really could change that. All right, Michaela, just based on the first paragraph, you really need to go back and reread this. And I don't know if you did this at the last minute or what, but if novels reflect the thoughts of culture, poetry reflects the heartbeat. Period. No space. No tries with his heart to give. I don't know what happened here. Something happened here, and you missed something. And that's an easy, silly mistake that you could have easily fixed. Okay. In Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night, when you have the capital, when you have a poem, you want to capitalize the significant words. So gentle, good, night will all be capitalized in that particular case. So make sure that you have that right capitalization. You do not need the comma there. The tenacious and propelling tones. Now, I'm going to have a problem with these, I'm going to assume, as we get going. First off, I don't know how you're going to go with propelling. I mean, I think you're trying to be, I think you're trying to say basically he's trying to convince people. So are you trying to say he's trying to propel them forward to do something they shouldn't or should? Tenacious tones? I don't know. I'm having a problem with these. All right. But as you keep reading, the tenacious propelling tones reflect the hurling need of triumph. I don't know what that means. The hurling need of triumph and protest the people that feel hopeless against death. So this whole sentence needs to be cleaned up. Vigorously calling to all men to join him in the fight, comma, he persistently pushes his idea of life to be in effect. Again, I kind of know where you're going with it, but it's just really awkwardly worded. Now, here's a problem. You did it right here. This is not. This goes in quotes. It's not underlined. So you got to fix that. Dylan Thomas uses structure. By the way, when you mentioned the poem the first time, mention the author too. Uses all of these to plea people. In this poem, he uses structured symbolism and diction to plea people. Again, clean up that language. To fight the inevitable while grasping to life and everything in it. I think that's too vague. And this whole thing doesn't yet get to a message statement. So we need to get to a message statement still about what's going on with this. So we really need to talk about that, because when you get to the body, all you're going to be able to say is, yes, he uses structure which shows that people should fight against death. Why should people fight against death? Why should people do that? Because that's really getting more towards what the message of the poem is. In your first body paragraph, again, this is in quotes, not in italics, so make sure you fix that. All right, Michaela, I am really going to emphasize to you that you need to go back and reread this. Okay. You try to use big words, which is good. I like that. With meticulous detail in accordance with structure, emphasizing the themes of transience and fighting. So, okay, topic sentence. I think I know where you're going to go with this. Okay. Throughout the piece, comma, the words are trivial in size to attain a simplistic rhythm and progression. So I don't mind that. That's fine. But then you get into repetition, which this is supposed to be about structure, which you can talk about repetition and structure, but if it's so important, why not get its own paragraph? So the phrases rage, rage against the eye of the light, and do not go gentle like a night accentuate the need for life. These phrases accentuate the need for life. Thompson, I'm assuming you meant to write Thomas and wrote some other name. This is a run-on sentence, so you got to fix that. Doing a resigned way, rather we should fight or rage and go out in a blaze of glory. That is a cliche. Don't write something like that on the test. You're kind of getting the idea of fighting, which you set up here was going to be about fighting, but what's the deeper connotation or the deeper meaning to that fight? And what does that do to the reader? Throughout the poem, comma, Thomas references a man at the beginning of each stanza. So in the second stanza, though wise men that there are no dark is right, comma. I don't know. I would even actually rephrase that whole sentence. He is telling us that a wise man is aware of the closeness of death, and that should be respected as a fact, which I like that. But you don't have any follow-up. You're just stating facts at this particular point. Here's a line. Here's what he meant when he said that. Instead of here's a line, here's the deeper meaning to it, and not just I'm summarizing what is there. Again, you're just getting into emphasizing the what the summary of it is, and not the actual deepness of it. Now you're talking about love something. Their lives could have been more, so maybe now you're starting to get into that. But now you're back into, again, the idea of summary. And again, you kind of just this is the problem. And I look at a paragraph like this, Mikalea, and this is by far the longest paragraph of anybody that I've seen so far. And I only have like 3 papers left. So you wrote really long paragraphs, which there's nothing wrong with writing really long paragraphs, except you're meandering and you're repeating yourself. And so I really want you to emphasize for the test getting to the point. You know, strong topic sentence, embedded quotes, which you're having a hard time with embedded quotes too. You're using too long of lines here. Embed a quote, 2 or 3 sentences, what's the bigger meaning, and move on. And that's what you need to practice here, because you're repeating yourself. You're not getting anywhere. And you're not getting to a deeper meaning, which, surprise, surprise, you didn't have a deeper meaning up here. So I wouldn't expect you to have one in here either. Need a strong transition, former speech student. Need a strong transition into the next paragraph to make it work. So throughout the piece, he uses several symbols to show the willingness of the living and the luminosity from life through. So not bad wording there. Again, I don't know who Thompson is, but I'm assuming you meant Thomas as you wrote. All right, so you get into the idea of the sun as a symbol of life, which we talked about that as a concept in class already, so makes sense. And you got the dying of the light, the close of the day, implying the coming and going of a sunset. But both of those, close of the day and dying of the light, would be at the end of your life. And I think there's parts of this that you are right, and parts of it that you're a little off base. The sunset symbolizing that no one is dying, and in this poem is asking you to fight against that easy way out. I don't think it symbolizes that no one is dying. I think it symbolizes that, we may see the sunset and it may be going down, but that doesn't mean we just go without a fight. That we have to fight for our lives and for ourselves until we get to the big old final sunset, I guess you could say. So I don't know if that's really what you're ultimately trying to get out of that. That it's a common and easy thing, and this poem asks you to fight against that easy way out, which again I think you're getting back on track with that statement. Thomas is imploring that it not come so easy to the world. What do you mean by that? Extend on that. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Again, you're having a hard time with embedding those quotes in. And then this is a run-on sentence because you use this whole sentence or a whole passage, and they say, "Dylan Thomas uses this metaphor. It should be this is one of your better lines in the whole paper. You should be a massive burning fire rather than a single wicked flame." I really like that line. That's actually got some voice to it and some different way to look at things. The meteor that is talked about exemplifies the theme of going out with a bang. I'm not sure I really like that analogy. Again, your end punctuation is going to go inside your quotation marks. Life is spontaneous and exciting and should be kept that way until the last breath a man should take. So you don't need a comma there. So make sure that you take that out. This is, again, trying to kind of get to a meaning, a more life, universal truth sort of meaning. And that's what we want to see more of. All right, so diction. Remember, diction revolves around connotation of words. So as you look at this paragraph, make sure you're talking about connotation. Again, you're getting away from embedding quotes, which we're going to try to really embed quotes now, and not just go, here's a bunch of words, they signify English. Here's a bunch of things, okay? Especially in the first stanza, there's no sense of uneasiness. Get rid of especially. In the first stanza, comma, there's no sense of uneasiness in his decision. I like the rule book for life and death. That's a good phrase. But again, you're not diving deeper. You're not getting deeper in here. So you have burn, blaze, rage, contrasted with good, light, bright, dance, saying, which is a good contrast. But what does that contrast mean ultimately in the grand scheme of things? It gives a calming presence to the piece. The good versus bad and the dark versus light words in the piece make the tone evolve from a bold, commanding persona transforming bold, commanding persona transforming, I don't know what that's supposed to say, so that we see the blossoming love and persuasion to be hopeful. I think that's worded poorly, and that is worded poorly, so you want to redo that. I like that you're getting to this contrast, and you're trying to get to the idea that there's this fight between what we think is right and what we know is right. And so I like that idea. I think you're just not able to say it as well as you could. I think that's a weak sentence. It doesn't add anything to it. I'd get rid of that. Okay, in your conclusion, again, fix that capitalization or punctuation of title. He uses these things to express the lifelong life desire to face the inevitable with pride and not to give up fighting and trying in life. How many times do you life in here? Fix that. This is not a good summary. You're just saying, oh, there's a deeper, it's complex. It's deeper analogies. This one's a little bit better. Motives of persuasion and love. I don't think you get to this in your paragraph up here. You really got to talk more about that then. This isn't a bad ending. It's not bad. How many spaces are you going to put in here, though, kid? 1, 2, 3. You only need 1. This isn't a bad ending. I like this concept. Wow, here we go. Good words. Good word choice. All right, double space. He is not the author of the website, probably. Oh, wait. Maybe he is. All right, so double space and indent any second line in. So make sure you have that works cited correctly. All right, got a lot of work to do, Michaela. So hopefully we see a rewrite out of you.